Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Kahn Report wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, again, you always know the drill. Like button, subscribe button, move on from that. If you want to find us on YouTube, go to Empire Media, that's A-M-P-I-R-E. It would be much appreciated. Today, I'm joined by my New York Giants colleague from ESPN, Jordan Raanan, as we discuss the New York Giants. The one team that I think that is the consensus about, and that would be for last place. But Jordan and I talk about what the Giants can expect this year, where there are some really big holes, Daniel Jones's growth, some of the offensive weapons they had, etc. I also get some perspective from Jordan on the Washington Commanders, and I do think he likes this roster. So stay tuned for that. As a reminder, first of all, you can follow both our works on ESPN.com, and you can follow Jordan on Twitter at Jordan Raanan. That's Jordan, R-A-A-N-A-N. He also has the Breaking Big Blue podcast that you can find wherever you find your podcast. He's also on YouTube, so check him out there. I did a recent interview with him. So there you go. Before I get to the interview, as you know, I'm still on vacation. This is all recorded before I left for out of the country. So don't expect any reaction to me from news. I'm providing you with this content out here so you can stay informed throughout the summer months leading into training camp. With that, let's get to my conversation with ESPN NFL Nation reporter Jordan Raanan. All right, Jordan, it's the annual stepchildren of the NFC East conversation. So I just want to get a feel for the Giants offseason. A lot of changes. Where are they at now compared to end of the season?
You could make the argument their roster is even worse right now. I mean, they had to get rid of some guys. I mean, they had to get rid of James Bradbury. That was a salary cap move. They had to get rid of, well, they didn't have to, but they elected to get rid of Logan Ryan. Evan Ingram left. Granted, Evan Ingram struggled, but it's not like they didn't have the resources then to go fill the positions. Now, they have a big promising rookie class, but we're talking about rookies. I'm talking about their roster for this year. We're talking about rookies, and rookies oftentimes struggle in this league. You know, it's not that easy to come in and make an instant impact, especially a fourth-round tight end, right? Daniel Bellinger. Like, he's running with the first team right now, John. That Adoree Jackson is now their number one cornerback, and their number two cornerback is up in the air. Like, nobody who's ever proven to play. Their slot cornerback, no one who's ever proven they could play at a high level in this league. Their second safety spot now, Julian Love, really like a utility man for most of his career. So this organization had a lot of change. They kind of, I think, realized, hey, we've got to take it on the chin this year. It's going to be a tough one, but we're rebuilding. We'll try and compete this year, slap it together with a lot of one-year deals, veteran-type guys, you know, like mid-range, low-range veteran guys like John Feliciano at center. Mark Lewinsky at right guard was their big move this offseason, one of their big moves. So, you know, Mark Lewinsky and a backup quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. So just kind of slap it together, compete, be competitive. Well, like what they did in Buffalo. Joe Shane and Brian Dable come from Buffalo. When Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott took over there, first year, they did make the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor, but they just tried to slap it together. Second year, drafted Josh Allen. Now we see where that franchise is now.
Well, seeing that you have that kind of a year this year, you can be in a position to draft somebody from what should be a good quarterback class. So they may set themselves up better than some of these other teams.
That's an option. Yeah. It's an option for sure. I mean,
so that, which of course, yeah. And like, so where is Daniel Jones at this point with everything? I mean, it's every year, it's the same, seems to be the same conversation with him, you know, Pro Bowl against Washington and then, you know, everywhere else. But where are they at with him? And clearly this is, if things don't change, it's going to be his last year, probably. Seems.
Fifth-year option was not picked up, so he's playing on the last year of his rookie contract. He obviously has to prove it. The Giants do believe in him. They are high on Daniel Jones. John Mara said this all, early in the offseason, like, we've done everything possible to screw this kid up. right? He's on coordinator number 4 in 4 years. They've been a mess. Look at his offensive line. It's gotten progressively worse. They couldn't keep anyone healthy last year for him. But at the same time, how can you be sold on Daniel Jones, John, at this point?
Right.
What has he put out on the field to make you say, this is definitively our franchise quarterback? He hasn't. So it's make or break this year. And if the Giants have to, let's say Daniel Jones blows up, plays amazing, right? Say, this is the quarterback we want to build around, Brian Dable's offense. Look, put him with the weapons, keep improving his line. Look, we got something here. Then the Giants will say, fine, we didn't use the 50-year option. We have to pay him. We're going to have to come up with some kind of contract that works. We have to pay him more money. That's a problem they would love to have.
Right.
They'll take that problem.
Right.
You know, if they have that problem, so be it.
And I mean, I think anybody would want that problem because it means you've got your guy, but I don't know where the proof is. What kind of difference can Dable make for him and for this offense?
I think he can make a substantial difference. I mean, Jason Garrett came in with question marks, seemed like he had a very outdated offense, was just not very, 2022 or whatever year we're in now. That was 2020 when he showed up. It was there was minimal to no pre-snap motion. It just didn't work. Nothing worked. They almost put the shackles on Daniel Jones in a way, limited. That was at least the positive about Daniel Jones under Pat Shurmur, is he would go out there and make plays and sling the ball around. And yeah, there was a lot of mistakes you wanted to cut back on, and they did cut back on the mistakes, but it was almost like an overcorrect. And so then you weren't getting the big plays. You weren't getting him making those plays downfield or making, sticking throws in tight windows. And, Brian Dable has been strong about saying, I told Daniel, I want him to take chances, to potentially make mistakes this spring, this summer, and say, hey, and realize, okay, I can make this throw, or this is a throw that I can't make, or, it's sort of like experimenting in practice. Like that's what he views practice as. So I think it could have a huge influence on him. And you've seen the success, obviously, Brian Daboll had with Josh Allen. I like to use the term, they want to turn Daniel Jones into the Jersey Josh Allen, which even if that's like 60%, 70% of Josh Allen, who wouldn't take 70% of Josh Allen? The dude's an MVP candidate, for God's sakes.
Jersey Josh, there you go.
Josh Allen.
How much fun is it to
That is so not Daniel Jones, by the way. Not even close.
How much fun is it to cover a new coach every couple of years?
I'm jaded, I'll tell you that much. I'm sure you feel this, but you hear the same song and it's, oh, this guy, he's good, he's player friendly. This one, we need a disciplinarian, and you go back and forth, and you hear the flip side and the optimism, and I'm jaded at this point, and I'm like, until I see the product on the field, we'll see. And you're in that cycle and you're in that circle. And from a personal perspective, it sucks because I'm having to, meet new people and create new sources every 2 years. So I would appreciate if they could kind of put a halt on this at some point.
And the funny thing is, even here, that's how it was in the early 2000s here, whereas every few years, but at least they stuck with Gruden for 6 years.
Right. Yeah.
And now this is Rivera's third year. So there's this is a model of stability compared to that. They haven't won, but
yeah, Bruce Allen lasted a long time, man.
10 years.
Yeah. He lasted a long time.
Quite a decade. And that, they haven't won, so it hasn't paid off.
But the fact that they lasted that long while they haven't won is quite an eye-opening thing, by the way.
Right. And Rivera's not going to be in any trouble unless they have some disastrous year, which I would have a hard time seeing, barring catastrophic injuries. But, who the heck knows? What about Kadarius Toney? Really good talent in college, kind of been not so good in the NFL. And all sorts of things swirling around him, it seems.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and I kind of refer back to Odell Beckham in a way. there's something about Odell that he just attracts that kind of stuff to him. There's always something around him. Well, Kadarius Toney is sort of in that boat. I mean, he's proven to be so far, but 16 months he's been on the Giants. I mean, I could put a list up of things. The guy got COVID twice during that time. Like you name it, and it's happened to him. Like, granted, I'm not saying that's his fault, but
right. But
who knows? He might have put himself in a bad situation. Who knows? We don't know the details of that. But his wrong size shoes, like that doesn't that doesn't happen to anybody. He couldn't practice because he had the wrong size cleats, and then the injuries are starting to pile up. Hamstring, knee, shoulder. Little by little. We've only been here a short period of time, so very good talent. We saw it for like 6 quarters last year, but the health is definitely a concern. And whether he's really going to put in that work when he's not in the facility is something, when I spoke to people on the previous coaching staff, that they had questions about. They said they wouldn't get rid of him. Like, getting rid of him would be a mistake. This guy could be a top receiver in the NFL. But there's questions, and he didn't, it was reported that he had a procedure on his knee this spring and didn't do anything in the spring now again. Didn't show up for the beginning of OTAs the first week or so. Maybe it was because he was having that procedure. But anyway, always something seems to be there.
Guys, are you looking for that extra confidence when it's time to have fun? Let me tell you about BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Blue Chew's tablets help men combat all forms of ED. Blue Chew is also an online prescription service, so no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. And it ships right to your door in a discreet package. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And the best part, all done online. Blue Chew's tablets, made in the United States, and they prepare and ship direct, so it's cheaper than a pharmacy. And here's a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code KEIM at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code KEIM, K-E-I-M, to receive your first month free.
Yeah, it does. You wrote a story recently on Saquon Barkley, getting that swagger back. Expectations there.
I went to OTAs and minicamp without much expectation. Maybe I'm a sucker for this because I did it every year with Evan Ingram. But when you watch Saquon Barkley run around in shorts and a helmet, no full pads, you're like, okay, look at the physical skills. That's enticing. He looks good. He's catching a ball out of the backfield. He's a supreme athlete. Maybe he lost a little bit with the injuries over the years, but he's still, when you watch him on the field, size, speed, ability to move and cut, you're like, wow. And so I'm kind of back there again. You still want to sit there and be in the wait and see mode. Like, all right, this is all fine and dandy. Again, probably jaded me because I've seen it over and over. Right. But you sit there and you say, well, all right, stay healthy. Do it on the field. Let me see it on the field before I really, really believe it.
I'm not sure how I'm not like 1,000,000% jaded at this point, to be honest. So maybe it's a difference between being the Jersey and in DC. I don't know, and I am to a point, but like sometimes you get snuffed.
I am a natural cynicist, let's say.
Well, and I think sometimes you get fooled by some things, or like the one thing here though, Jordan, like they've been close enough each year, like 7 to 9 wins. You're like, hey, you make these couple moves. If these guys stay healthy, then you get to here. So like the scenario is not unrealistic. That's a thing here. That's been the difference. Yeah. If they're coming off 4 wins, you're going to be more jaded, but you're 7 wins in an injury-filled year. And you think
4 wins. Here we go.
Right. And so, but if they were
3 and 13, here we go. Yeah.
But these guys were like 7 and 10. And but they had a ton of injuries and they upgraded a quarterback and they, did
Yeah.
all this. So then it's like, well, can they get there? Well, yeah. Will they? I don't know. But I only get to the defense.
John, let me tell you the difference. Okay. Washington, I almost called them the R word again. I don't know how you go by and never say it.
I almost did on the radio the other day.
But Washington, like you said, they've had some good years, decent years. They haven't been terrible. The Giants, I just want you to know the depths that they've fallen. The last 5 years, the worst team in the NFL, tied with the New York Jets, is the New York Giants. Record-wise, 5 full years. We're talking about the worst team in the NFL. They're in that level. Like, the Jaguars have a better record. The Texans have a better – they've at least had a good season here or there, right? This is the company that they're keeping right now. It's the Jets and the Giants.
Go Meadowlands. Well, how do you I'm going to get to the defense in a minute, but how do you view Washington at this point? And I don't know how much you've focused on what they've done, but they got Carson Wentz, some of the stuff. How do you view them as a contender in this division?
Yeah, it's curious because we were asked to rank the teams, and I just sat down to do it, and I didn't actually even do it yet. I'm tempted to, because I like to think outside the box, to put Washington first because I do like their team. Like, I like a lot of the pieces that they have. Like, I felt they were a quarterback away. Now, every year we fill in mediocre quarterback, and we're like, well, he's better than the other slop they had last year, right? Like, each year it's like, well, he's better than the slop we had the previous year, and he's better than the slop we had the previous year before that. But, I mean, I was once a big Carson Wentz guy, but he's not ultimately the answer, right? But I do think that they could be pretty good. I think that their weapons are improving. I don't know why they don't like Antonio Gibson as much as everybody else in the world, but
I think they do. I think they just want someone else.
They don't.
Yeah, they do like him. I think they also want someone else with him, though,
for durability purposes.
Yeah, a little bit of that, and then also I think Brian Robinson's maybe a more natural runner. So but I think they see Antonio. So who knows? Like, this is what they say. Right. But actions, we'll see. We'll see how it
goes.
But
they've been adding some playmakers around on the offense.
I like Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, you got Jahan Dotson, McLaurin, Gibson, Robinson. Like, I think the weapons are getting better. They're getting there. So I think they could be okay offensively. Defensively is where their front seven should be really good. It wasn't great last year, but it should be really good. So I don't know. I think they can be competitive in the division. I also think Dallas and Philadelphia are going to be good. And Philly has a really easy schedule to open the season. So between those three teams, I think the NFC East is actually going to be pretty good, which is not necessarily good for the Giants. And I know everybody's like, they all have easy schedules too. So that should benefit the entire division. But I think Washington can compete in this NFC East because, we're going to have this debate many times, John. Rank the quarterbacks in the division.
Right.
I think we all probably will say Dak is one.
Right.
And then, who else has a great quarterback? And there's no Aaron Rodgers here. There's no Tom Brady. There's no name a quarterback in the AFC West. Like, they're all better. All four quarterbacks in the AFC West are probably better than the four quarterbacks in the NFC East. Although maybe Derek Carr and Dak.
Probably, yeah.
But you get my point. Like,
I do. You can make the strong case that Wentz is the second best. You can make the strong case that Wentz is the second best quarterback.
I can make the case. I think Daniel Jones, if you put him with a good team, is the second best quarterback. Like, if I watched Jalen Hurts play multiple times last year, and I can tell you that if Daniel Jones was on the Eagles and played behind that offensive line, I think Daniel Jones would be a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Or at least you can win games with Jalen Hurts. You can if Daniel Jones played behind a really good team and had a really good offensive line like that and a good running game around him, you could dream that he could do some real big things in this league as a quarterback.
So let's go to the Giants defense real quick. Kayvon Thibodeau, big guy, and Wink Martindale are the two big changes. What is the impact for them with those two potentially this year?
Well, you look at Wink Martindale and you say, okay, the key here is, especially with the secondary I named before, they're going to have to create pressure. And that's kind of what Wink does. But at the same time, there's a point where if your cornerbacks are not good enough and your secondary is really not good enough, you're going to get shredded, which is what happened last year in Baltimore. Like, he had nothing left. He even made a comment like, what he learned from last year, you don't shop for cornerbacks at DoorDash.
Yes.
Like, it's kind of what the Giants did the next week. They went and picked up 2 Ravens castaways, from the past few years in the middle of the spring, because they realized, whoa, what do we got out here? Not much. So it could be a long year for the defense on that side, unless the pass rush with Wink creating stuff. I mean, the idea in his defense is create the illusion at the line of scrimmage that everybody's coming and you don't know where it's actually coming from. And that's partly why Kayvon Thibodeau was their guy, because they like him moving around. He's had some success in the middle. You could put him as a stand-up linebacker or anywhere in the formation. He could rush on the edge. That first step is dangerous when you could have him in a lot of different spots. So I expect him to be used all over the field. And I mean, it's hard to see him completely failing. I mean, he's a pretty good premium athlete.
He's a really good athlete.
So, I don't think and I talk to a lot of people. The misconception to me is the expectation that he's not in the same stratosphere as Chase Young as a prospect. To people, I mean, pretty much to a man, the people I talk to is like, he looks like he's a good player. Like, in a normal year, he would have been like a borderline top 10 pick. But this draft was really short on high-end guys.
It was. That
he kind of got bumped up, and people seem to have this impression because of what they thought going into his senior year, that he was, a number 1 pick type kind of guy, which turned out to not really be the case. Right. But he should and could be a good player, and I expect him to do damage. The fact that they have him and Azeez Ojulari, well, maybe I'm not blown away by either of them this year. It gives them 2 at least legit pass rushers. John, Giants had 1 pass rush, 1 edge rusher in the last 8 years that reached double-digit sacks, and that was Marcus Golden. So the Giants, who you think of this defensive team pass rush, like that's their history,
right?
Hasn't been there.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's not a good stat.
No. You want your edge rushers to get double-digit. I mean, pretty much every team has an edge rusher that gets double-digit sacks.
Yes,
you over there might have 2 guys get double-digit sacks if they stay healthy in the same year.
And then it's like with Chase, for Chase, it's going to be about when does he come back, because we don't know yet. Is he going to be back for the start of the season? Is it going to be a few games in? And the one thing I like that they're saying is that they're not putting a time, even as people close to them, we're not putting a timetable on. There's no, as Griffin once said, all in for week 1. But that's going to be the key there. But yes, they have the potential for 2 guys to do that. So, we'll see if it happens. But
when they say that means that when they say that means they're usually ready for week 1, but they don't want to put that pressure on them to be ready. And then if he's not ready for week 1, people think, oh, he had a setback, it's got slower than usual. Da da da. So.
Right, and it'll be a tricky one because the timetable of his recovery, and they had to do, they had to take some stuff from his left knee, put in the right. So it makes it a more complicated situation, which maybe lengthens the timetable. But yes, I mean, the worst thing to me that you can do is put a time and say like, oh, we'll be back by then. And then you're not, because that's like, well, you said you're going to be back. What's the issue? Well, the issue is you're just recovering from a torn ACL. So,
Saquon was in this exact boat last year. Didn't start practicing until the middle of the summer, really kind of late in the summer, actually, August. And he did get ramped up for week 1, and it really wasn't, he wasn't good. It took him till like week 4 till you kind of started seeing, the explosiveness. But they didn't want to say the whole summer that the goal was to be back week 1, which it was the goal to be back week 1.
Yeah, and what would be interesting or fun again is if these 2 teams actually played like meaningful. I guess they played meaningful game in, well, not for this team, it was in 2016 but like just to get some big games in this. I want to see some big games in this division again. So it's not like a December slog where you feel like you're going to exhibition games.
The one team in this 5-year stretch the Giants have had success against, by the way, John.
There you go. I'm telling you, like Daniel Jones, you're going to build a statue just based off what he did against these guys. So
I know. How do you not rank him the second best quarterback in the NFC East? Every time you see him, the guy's playing like Patrick Mahomes.
Because I watch other games too.
The other 15 in the season.
So, all right, man. Well, thanks a lot for coming on.
Anytime. We'll do it again soon, John.
All right. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Jordan for joining me, and thank you, as always, for listening. I'll continue my NFC East tour with ESPN's Tim McManus coming up on Monday, talking about the Philadelphia Eagles and his take on the Washington Commanders. I'll talk to you next time.